Wednesday. What happens on Wednesday, fellas, at 10 o'clock?
It is time to talk antiques again.
Yeah.
And
I love what you're gonna do today, boy.
Yeah, this is one of your favorite categories, ain't it?
Yeah.
Vinyl.
yeah, we're going to talk about something today that, everybody's got records and everybody's got their favorite artists.
And
And
you're not talking about prison records.
we're not talking about
Oh,
prison
okay.
records. No,
And
we're,
everybody
we're,
got them.
You talking about
we're talking
music?
about recordings and,
Oh, okay.
and musical recordings. And that's going to be the topic of today's show. And, record collecting has probably been around nearly as long as recorded sound has been around in its earliest years. Phonographs and the recordings that were played on them, the first ones were like wax phonograph cylinders.
I've got a cylinder player and probably about 300 cylinders,
You do, I've seen
and they
those.
play good.
And
The
that's
Travolta, what's it called before the record player? The Victrola? Like one of those?
Well, it's a cylinder player. Victrola
before
plays
that.
78s, yeah.
Oh, wow.
they're little.
It's
They're
an
little,
actual cylinder about the size of your mic case there. You see
Yeah.
your mic case? Right here in
Oh.
front of you. Your mic's in front
Oh,
of you.
yeah.
They're
See
round.
that case?
Wow.
About that size.
They're round.
I've
and-
never
and
seen
they're
one of these, I don't
long,
reckon.
and-
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't think I have.
And then later on they had shellac discs that they were mostly toys for the rich, out of reach of the middle class or the lower classes by the 20s. Improvements in the manufacturing process, both in the players and the recordings, had allowed the prices of the machines to drop, so more people could afford them. While entertainment options in the middle to upper class home in the
Ronnie,
1890s.
let me stop you just a second.
Okay.
But what you're saying there is still typical today.
Yes, you're right.
Well, think about TVs. They used to be as wide as, they could be 3 foot wide
Yeah.
and heavy as heck. I know you bought a TV one time, and it was one of those big screens. Took 3 of us to unload the son of a gun.
Yeah,
yeah,
it was,
give you a
it was
hernia.
all we could do
Yeah.
to get the thing in the house.
Yeah, and it was high. So a couple years ago, that we had one like that. It went out. So I go to Walmart and buy one with about the same size screen, and I carried it out in a box by myself, and it probably didn't weigh 40 or 50 pounds. I doubt if it even weighed 50, probably more like 40.
Right.
The whole TV.
Right. I gave.
And it was, how much you get for that one?
I was fixing to say I'd give $1,400 for that thing, $1,400 or $1,500, anyway. And the next one I bought had a bigger screen on it, and I could carry it by myself.
Yeah.
And I didn't give $500 for
Yeah,
it.
well, I think we paid around $400 for ours, with the same size screen as that monster. That, of course, that was the thing. Those monsters. I mean, that was the technology, and the price was high.
Right.
But if you'll notice, when those things started coming out, year after year, they started being a lot sharper in picture and a lot lower in price.
Better images, better.
I always
quality,
wondered
and-
why they couldn't do that with cars. They do it with everything else.
Yeah.
But cars are always going up, not down.
I tell you what I think. I think with Apple and Google and all of them getting in the car business, I think that they will see the same kind of thing happening with cars. Later on. With as the manufacturing, they get more and more quantity out there. I think we'll see those type of cars go down. Those,
Well,
those electric cars. and
Yeah, you
stuff.
said, was it Tesla?
Yeah, the battery technology.
Yeah, you said that, like right now,
The battery's most of the price of the car.
yeah, what did you say, it was half of it or something, or was it?
Close to half of the price of the car.
Well, and you
Yeah.
said that now that they're building a new factory,
Right.
and you see those batteries coming down, which Philip will be happy.
Everybody will. I'm telling you.
About the
that's
time
all.
he needs a new set of batteries for his car.
Yeah. But anyway, it's like, you're right. It's like everything else. As the manufacturing, they started manufacturing more of them, more and more people started having them in their homes. By the 1920s, improvements in the manufacturing process, both in the players and recordings, allowed prices for the machines to drop. While entertainment options in a middle to upper class home in the 1890s would likely consist of a piano, some smaller instruments, and a library of sheet music. You know, they would entertain themselves, you know.
And back when you're talking about too, you like that sheet music, you know, the player pianos that actually
Right,
that actually had the holes in it, and you'd pump the bellows and it'd play music.
Yeah, I remember you used to have that little thing, you know, that you crank.
Hurdy-gurdy.
The hurdy-gurdy, yeah.
They, matter of fact, what group was it wrote that song, Hurdy-Gurdy Man?
It's an old one.
It's a 60s rock group.
But anyway, you could crank that thing up, you know, and it'd play the song.
Yeah.
You know, it's nice. By the 1910s and later, these options had expanded to include radio and a library of recorded sound, which, you know, of course, we're talking about, you know, music. And after the phonograph cylinder became obsolete, the record was the uncontested sound medium for decades. We're talking about the shellac records of
Right.
the 78s.
The set, yeah.
The number of available recordings mushroomed and the number of companies pressing the records increased. These were 78 RPM, originally one-sided, then later double-sided 10-inch shellac discs with about 2 to 4 minutes of recording time on each side. And I think you've got some prices on some 78s.
Yeah, let me tell you about 78s too.
Yeah,
Those things will break looking at them. You know, they're not. That's one, and you're going to get to it. But vinyl, that's one of the reasons that vinyls.
exactly. I was going to
Yeah.
talk about that later on, but I thought while we
Yeah.
was on 78s, we
Yeah,
would.
let me just.
And you've
You keep talking there until I pull it up here, and I'll be.
okay. Growth in the recorded sound industries was stunted by the Great Depression, of course, and World War I. And when the recording industries in some countries were affected by a restricted supply of raw materials, which, you know, of course, was because of the war. By the time World War II ended, the economy of these countries, you know, they began to grow again. And classical music, which was a large portion of 78 releases, was slowly edged into a minority status by the influx of popular, what they call popular, and new music, because it was cheaper to produce and more profitable for them to record.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm on 78s. I went to our buddy eBay. You know, he's one of our favorite pals to look up
Very
stuff with.
favorite.
And I did a completed auction on 78s, and the first thing that pops up is a Robert Johnson. You know, he's a blues player.
Right,
And now this was a test vinyl one. They call it vinyl, but it's really not vinyl.
Right, no, it's shellac.
It's $610.
Or wax.
It had 3 bids.
$610.
Yeah, here's another Robert Johnson, a box set of 12. These are reproductions, 78s.
Oh, Lord, those are reproductions.
The one, yeah, and then they sold and they brought $595. Of course,
Tell me
blues.
what the real thing would
Yeah,
be.
blues is a big deal.
Yeah, it is.
All right, here's a jazz band like you was talking about. $300, 14 bids. Let's see. It says Hall Jazz Band and Tom Waits. Never heard of him. Have you, Ray?
I had never heard of it.
Now let's see here. Oh, here's a good one. Frank Sinatra.
Oh, yeah.
26 of them, 10-inch, 78 RPM. Brought $250. Buy it now. Let me see here. Let me just. And there's all kinds of them on here, and there a lot of them's high speed. I mean, high dollar records. I was telling the producer, I actually have picture records on 78s.
Yeah, now that's something
And
that
of course, the
I had
33s
never heard
and
of.
I don't know. I guess the 45s, but I know the 78s and the 33s has got them because I got an example of both of them.
Could you tell us what that is? That's something I had never
Well,
even
it's
heard
actually
of.
it'd be a scene on the whole record, you know, whatever the scene may be. I think what they did, I don't know how they made it. Phillips got his idea on the 33s, but on the 78, it looks like that they actually printed the picture and then cut the grooves, you know, for the song, whatever the song may be.
Right.
Now this is odd. It says the Rolling Stones vinyl, 78 RPM. Philip?
It must have been an unusual.
It had to be. It's $118,
For the Rolling
and it's
Stones.
from. Now here's the thing, the United Kingdom. Looks like we're going to get a phone call here. I've heard the phone ringing. Oh, here's the Beatles 78, and it's from the United Kingdom. So most of these that I'm telling you about on these 60s groups is from the United Kingdom. It's brought $73.
A lot of those 60 groups were from the United Kingdom. I was going to get into that here in a minute.
Donovan wrote
Donovan wrote
Hurdy.
the Hurdy-Gurdy Man?
Donovan.
I thought it was older than that.
I'll be dang.
Okay, here we go. Everybody knows Elvis Presley, and everybody knows Sun Record.
Right.
Okay, they had a 78 for Elvis. Brought $118, Blue Moon. And That's All Right. I guess that'd be That's All Right Mama, isn't it? Ain't
Yeah.
that the title on that?
Yeah.
Is that right, Ray?
Yeah.
Here's a Ray Charles, brought $74.
Now that would have been like 50s, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, I say, what? Was it like 55 or 56? Maybe a little bit less when Elvis recorded at Sun Records.
Yeah,
originally.
now the 33 and a half, they come in the 48, 49 era, so that's probably, they were still producing 78s in the 50s.
Of course it was. Because think about all the homes.
They didn't have the players.
Yeah. They had the Victrolas.
Right.
And if you noticed on those players that played the 33s, the 45s, it also has a place that plays the 78, on the speeds. You ever notice that?
Yeah.
And that's why, because you had so many people that had large collection of 78s that once they bought a new player, they wanted to still be able to play their 78s.
Of course.
And with that, we're going to take a break, and you're going to get back on the 33s.
We're going to start on the 50s, yes.
John Hirschman. I'm one of the original 6 owners of P&H Rentals. Started the company 30 years ago when we saw a need for individual, construction, industrial, and commercial storage. We have trailers and containers for lease and sell. Our physical location is 2947 Old Manchester Highway, Tullahoma, Tennessee. My phone number is area code 931-273-4252.
We would like to thank Dr. David Florence for supporting Let's Talk Antiques. See Dr. Florence at 804 Kalon Street in Manchester for all of your medical needs. Call 728-5522 for your appointment today. Most insurances accepted.
The Jiffy Burger on the Hillsborough Boulevard in Manchester has been voted as having the best hamburgers in Manchester. Hometown atmosphere, historical memorabilia, and of course those great burgers, salads, chicken, and so much more. It's the Jiffy Burger on the Hillsborough Boulevard in Manchester. Call in orders at 728-4452. You can also order at the convenient outdoor curb service. Hamburgers are made the old-fashioned way at the Jiffy Burger, Manchester's finest hamburgers. Open 7:30 until 9, Monday through Saturday.
Madeline's Antiques and Uniques at 6107 Murfreesboro Road in Manchester has been helping collectors find just the right thing since 2008. With 40 quality dealers and a constantly changing inventory of collectibles from the 1800s to the present, they have many unique items in the store and new things coming in daily. Are you looking for the perfect lamp or clock to finish your collection? A vintage lunchbox from your childhood? Well, you can find that plus any number of other unique items in their huge building. With their easy access off I-24, they meet many travelers from around the world and just around the corner that come to buy and sell antiques, or just to stop and have a free cup of coffee and a cookie while browsing around the store. Come visit owner Madeline Kemp and travel back in time at Madeline's Antiques and Uniques. So many memories.
All right, well, we're back, and we were going to talk about the late 40s, early 50s with the introduction of the 33.5 RPM. That would be the 12-inch LPs, and the 45 RPMs, that's the 7-inch records. They came into the market in 48, 49. They provided advances in both storage and quality, and these records featured vinyl, which is polyvinyl chloride, which is PVC, same thing you make pipe out of, and they were more durable. They replaced the shellac materials. Further, groups of small labels came into existence with the dawning of the rock and roll era, which was in the early to the middle 50s, and the growth of the market among the post-war teenagers with disposable income to spend on 45 RPM singles. Rock and roll was much less costly and more profitable to produce than the big band jazz and the professional singer-song craftsman music that it replaced in popularity. Because if you think, if you've got a big band, with 30, 40, 50 members,
That's a lot of dollars.
costs a lot more money to
Instead of a 4-piece band.
to produce than somebody with a drum, a bass, and a couple of guitars, so they were a lot more profitable. Ronald E. Cohen, he said that the hillbilly-focused Disc Collector magazine, which was formed in 1951, various important online library catalogs, they list copies of Burke's Register of Record Collectors, which existed from 1957 at the latest. In the United Kingdom, rare 78 RPMs were traded, usually American rock and roll, such as Little Richard and Elvis Presley, and labels such as London American. They now were priced at a premium. One of the earliest UK record collectors was Mike Adams, who was first known for trading in 1958 on Merseyside. He later became a DJ on the BBC and broadcasting on collecting records for many years. He wrote several books on collecting, including Apple Beetle Collectibles. In the UK, labels considered collectibles such as Atlantic Records, Stateside, Motown, and EMI turned into mainstream major record labels later on in the 60s. In the U.S., New York Times Square Store is widely acknowledged for feeding the doo-wop revival of the early 60s, attention focusing on them from 1959. Now, you got anything on the 33?
Yeah, I do have, Ronnie. Here's a box set, Pink Floyd's. Now this is sold items that we're going to talk about.
Uh-huh.
And it had 12 albums, and 9 are in great shape and 3 are okay. They're not perfect, but the 9 are. That thing brought that set, and it's set in 1979, like I said.
Right.
$911.56.
Good Lord.
And that's out of Australia.
Yeah.
All right, and then let's see here what else. We got the Beach Boys, Surfing
Yeah.
USA, 2250. Here's a good one. Box set again, 16 LPs, original brown outer box glove, $364.62.
Good Lord.
Yeah. Let's see here what else we got. Got another Pink Floyd Pulse. $395. It's got 4 LPs. Pink Floyd's evidently. Here's a good one.
That's almost $100 each.
Yeah, here's Queen with 15 albums. It's a collection. $421. Here's another Beatles vinyl set. It's called Past Master Stereo Vinyl Set. $392.04.
Good Lord.
Here's a good one. Tom Petty Wildflowers.
Yeah, I like Tom Petty.
$364.63. Okay, here's a group that I predict will sooner or later play at Bonnaroo, and maybe this, I don't know it, but I just know they're touring this year in the United States. It's AC/DC.
Right.
Now, hopefully they'll come to Bonnaroo. AC/DC, Highway to Hell, First Press, $339.10. Let's see here. Let me find you. Pearl Jam.
Pearl Jam, yeah.
$306. Another Pearl Jam, $300. Several Pearl Jams.
Yeah.
Another AC/DC, $299. Trying to get down and see some other groups.
Yeah, I found a David Bowie Station to Station LP. It was in mint condition, vinyl, clean. Brought $2,200.
Okay, here's the Pink Floyd. Come out of United Kingdom, 232.27. Oh, here's a group that I bet you a lot of people had forgot about and don't remember. Remember the Zombies?
The Zombies. I don't remember the Zombies now.
It's their first pressing, and it brought $230.44. There's 5 of those Zombies on the front of the album. Let's see. Here's Elvis Presley, Easy Come, Easy Go, the original mono. It's out of Australia, 218.77. Evidently, Australia must be a big collector.
Yeah, and you got to think, with the advent of compact discs and MP3s, vinyl, almost just faded plumb away, and now, they're reproducing players, and people are looking for the.
Yeah.
Looking for the.
I hadn't got any of those
records.
reproduction players, but I got new players. What it is.
Right.
I've got a couple of old ones I play my stuff on. Here's a Genesis album.
Yeah, Phil Collins.
145. The Beatles, the White Album. We talked about that before. Is that the White record too?
No, that's
Just
not
the
a
White
mono.
Album.
That's the original mono.
646.50. Here's another one that brought $560.
I found a Magical Mystery Tour from the Beatles, a vinyl LP, had 38 bids, brought $2,025.
Okay,
So
here's
Beatles
one.
were
Pearl
really
Jam.
hot.
It's 12 of them. 12 vinyls. Brought $189.99. So I guess when it really gets down to it, Ronnie, there's probably just because you got 133s or 178s and you're going to talk about 45s, that don't mean that you got to go mine. It just
No.
takes 1 or 2 of those to really be rare.
Right.
And that's why you have to take a little time with what you do have, if you inherit them or if you buy them at a yard sale or whatever. Take your time and do a little research on them.
Right.
And we found the best place is, our favorite place to hunt stuff.
Is eBay.
Yeah, and the reason that is there's millions of people that's on site buying and bidding and selling.
Great place to research.
Yeah.
Great place to research.
We've been doing it for years, and I think finally that even eBay's figured out that it's a go-to place, and they're actually advertising, like completed auctions and the average price. And here's the Beatles album, Greatest Hits Volume 1. This is out of Australia, and it's 147.67. David Bowie, 131.27. So, here's a good one right here. The Empire Strikes Back.
Just a soundtrack.
Star Wars. Had 13 bids, brought $152.50.
A lot of interest in that.
And by the way, I went and seen the Star Wars movie. Nancy and I went yesterday, and it was great.
Yeah, you said you saw it in
we watched it in
3D.
3D, and those ships actually flew off the screen. All kinds of stuff flew off the screen.
You didn't feel like you were getting shot at, did you?
Well, Keith said he went and seen Titanic, and he thought he was drowning
He thought he
in
was
3D.
drowning,
Yeah.
yeah.
Sounds like a rock concert where they used to light their lighters up.
Yeah.
So everybody know it's time to fire up one so they can see some good stuff.
Is that why they did that?
Not
I
for
never
us.
knew why they done that.
That's what it's about.
Well, if you watch some of those concerts, you can see thousands of people at them, and they're all doing their lighter. I didn't know that was what they did.
There'd be 40 cops out there and everybody smoking dope and the ones on stage smoking too. Nobody getting arrested. You didn't have too much trouble figuring it out.
Well, let's go to the 60s with the folk music boom in the late 50s to the early 60s.
Mm-hmm.
You had a lot of folk music back then. There was suddenly a demand for archival material.
Tell you what, with that, let's hold that thought.
Alrighty.
We'll come right back.
Okay.
John Hirschman. I'm one of the original 6 owners of P&H Rentals. Started the company 30 years ago when we saw a need for individual, construction, industrial, and commercial storage. We have trailers and containers for lease and sell. Our physical location is 2947 Old Manchester Highway, Tullahoma, Tennessee. My phone number is area code 931-273-4252.
The Jiffy Burger on the Hillsborough Boulevard in Manchester has been voted as having the best hamburgers in Manchester. Hometown atmosphere, historical memorabilia, and of course those great burgers, salads, chicken, and so much more. It's the Jiffy Burger on the Hillsborough Boulevard in Manchester. Call in orders at 728-4452. You can also order at the convenient outdoor curb service. Hamburgers are made the old-fashioned way at the Jiffy Burger, Manchester's finest hamburgers. Open 7:30 until 9, Monday through Saturday.
Madeline's Antiques and Uniques at 6107 Murfreesboro Road in Manchester has been helping collectors find just the right thing since 2008. With 40 quality dealers and a constantly changing inventory of collectibles from the 1800s to the present, they have many unique items in the store and new things coming in daily. Are you looking for the perfect lamp or clock to finish your collection? A vintage lunchbox from your childhood? Well, you can find that plus any number of other unique items in their huge building. With their easy access off I-24, they meet many travelers from around the world and just around the corner that come to buy and sell antiques, or just to stop and have a free cup of coffee and a cookie while browsing around the store. Come visit owner Madeline Kemp and travel back in time at Madeline's Antiques and Uniques. So many memories.
We would like to thank Dr. David Florence for supporting Let's Talk Antiques. See Dr. Florence at 804 Kalon Street in Manchester for all of your medical needs. Call 728-5522 for your appointment today. Most insurances accepted.
All right, we're back. Just before you get ready, I know you got one more thing. Have you noticed Keith's haircut today? He actually combed one side of it.
Yeah,
I say by next show,
It's called headphone hair.
I say by the next show, he'll actually comb both sides of it.
Yeah,
You know,
do you
we got
think
on to
he'll-
him last
you think
week.
he'll do that, or you think he'll just shave his head?
That can work.
Yeah. Well, I don't.
Hey, just
Headphones
shave
mess
his
up
head.
your hair.
Yeah, we don't want him to shave his head because that
We got
reminds
to
us
get
too
Keith
much.
turned around where the people can see him
Yeah.
too, though. They appreciate that hair better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he's got plenty of it. I wished I could say I had messed up hair. Mine's leaving me faster than
Oh,
every day. It gets thinner and thinner.
mine does too. Okay, when we left, we were talking about folk music, the folk music boom in the late 50s and early 60s. And there was suddenly, there was demand for archival material, the old folk stuff, and record collectors, they went out in some countries, they'd search small towns, dusty barns, mountain cabins, for older discs. And initially, the most desired items were the pre-World War II shellac discs containing race records. That's what we're talking about: blues, country blues, hillbilly music, the precursors to the rock and roll and the country styles. And the later generations of record collectors, they found their passion in digging up obscure 45s and the general, like the doo-wop or LPs from the late 60s, garage rock and psychedelic genres. And speaking of the psychedelic genres, Ray, you were telling us about bag masking.
Yeah.
And you want to tell us a little about that?
How does
And I
that work,
think,
Ray?
Well,
Philip's
I believe
actually
we are.
gonna have some for us.
It's just
You play the record backwards, right?
Yeah, you take it and spin it backwards like it's going forward at the same speed. Mm-hmm. And a lot of records have
Hidden messages.
hidden in them, and some of them are very intentional. Like the Purple Rain album had a thing where the lead singer says, "Hello, how are you? I'm fine, because I know the Lord's coming soon." And then he'd laugh out with this demonic laugh.
How many dog?
Oh, it's all kinds of stuff.
Oh, we got a call? Okay. We got a call, and then we're going to get Philip to come over here and sit down, because he actually recorded some
Go
of
ahead,
that
caller.
stuff.
Yes, sir. Oh, hang on. Oh, go ahead. You're on.
The quarter-inch records, does David have any of those? They're quarter-inch thick, 78s.
Yes, I do have. Uh-huh. Yeah.
I have some here, and the cover says they're Edison Diamond Disc recreations.
Yeah.
Some of those sold for as high as $4.25 a piece back in 1915.
That's a lot of money back then.
Money back then.
Yeah. Hey, you know, one thing about those quarter-inch ones, they are heavy.
Yeah, they're.
You know, I've got several of the 78s, and I got the Edisons too. And you take and you move about 25 or 30 of those things, you're picking up some weight. You wouldn't think so, but they're heavy. Like the caller, he'll tell you that
Way over a pound a piece, I'd say.
Yes.
You have quite a few of those.
I have several, not too many, but 8 or 10, I guess.
But I think he made a good point there, though. That particular record that he's talking about, over $4 a piece
Yeah.
in
Can
1915.
you imagine, you know, what they
Well,
bring
that's
today?
that was people didn't make $4 a week.
Yeah. Back in 1915.
Well, that's interesting.
Thank you.
All righty.
Thank you for
Philip,
calling.
come over here and talk to people a little bit since you're in the recording business.
Philip's
And then we're
actually,
actually going to play one of those songs backwards.
he's going to give us an example of some backmasking.
I'll tell you, this caused a lot of things happening
Lot of
between the religious
controversy.
and the music industry there for a while.
Well, the way you actually make a backmasking on a recording back when you used tape to record with was you would physically take the tape off the machine and put it on backwards so that when you hit play on it, it would play backwards, and then you just hit record. And you would either record a vocal part or a musical instrument part. Some songs like Jimi Hendrix, Are You Experienced, the drums are backwards on that, and it gives a really cool effect. But you have to think with the beat backwards and stuff. It's really
now,
hard.
would you dub
to
that
play
in
with.
on a separate track, or would you just add it into something?
Well, you would. Every instrument has its own track, so you just record it on a blank
On a
track.
blank- on a
But you have to
separate
think
track.
too.
Right.
If like the vocal was on track 1 and you flip the tape over, you don't record on track 24 because that's now track 1. So
Right.
you have to really think what you're doing when you did it. I did a guitar solo once that I recorded where the guitar player played the first half of the solo normal, and then we flipped the tape over and he played the second half backwards, and it gave a really cool effect.
I bet it did.
So, and I mean, you can hide stuff underneath because you can mix the volume of different things.
Is that how you hide it?
Yeah, you just take the volume down.
Right,
I
on
can
that
remember
track.
parents getting so upset because they couldn't understand and hear all this stuff. But the reason was just what he just said. They was hiding what they were singing
They
to
were
them.
just pulling it down
Listen, you
on
can
that.
sing to somebody what you can't say to somebody.
Right.
Yeah, and there's examples of it like Pink Floyd on their The Wall album. There's a song called Empty Spaces, and on Empty Spaces, when you play it forwards, it's just kind of weird thing with people talking backwards and stuff. And then when you flip it around, it's put there on purpose. It talks about a contest. Keith's got that pulled up.
Yeah, let's play that.
let's hear that. That's really interesting.
Just discovered the secret message.
Have you got it selected?
Your answer to old Pink
I would say it's not ours. Oh, okay. So that's just talking about, yeah, okay. Oh, sorry, we couldn't hear it in the control room, but it's just talking about a contest and stuff. So people were taking it and, making a joke about putting things on it too, and just showing you could and stuff. There's all kinds of examples of doing it.
And there was a lot of talk about that, back like in the Beatles, they'd say like, I buried Paul.
Yeah, all those things, yeah. So.
Stuff like that.
One said I shot John or something. I think right.
Yeah.
I can't remember what album it was from, but it was about John Lennon. And before he got shot, this album had the song in
actually said
we shot John Lennon.
And that was playing it backwards.
That was playing it back.
And that was the Beatles doing this themselves,
I don't know who was on.
or their producer or something, but they would have to have
I tell you,
input in
anytime you
that.
messing with music, you messing with a spiritual side of things.
Yes, but now
Good and bad.
the pop music scene, it really changed forever in January 1964 with the arrival of the Beatles in the United States. And there were thousands of musical bands They were inspired by their fresh, lively take on rock music with a sharp British sensibility. They pick up their guitars and many released records.
Ronnie, talking about the Beatles when they first came to America, I remember I was 14 years old, and we was watching Ed Sullivan, and they was on the Ed Sullivan.
Right,
Ed Sullivan
saw
introduced
that.
a lot of
Elvis Presley. And, But what about the?
But I mean, I'm gonna tell you what happened. The Beatles come on Elvis Presley. I mean, on
Ed Sullivan.
Ed Sullivan show. Okay. You know, their haircut, it really wasn't long compared to today.
Right.
But it looked long, kind of
It looked
about
like
like
church
Keith,
boys.
except longer on the sides and a little bit longer in the front, the way Keith's got his hair. Well, like you too.
Right.
Now, that's basically, yours is almost about as long as the Beatles was. But what that did, it wasn't but a few days after school started, after that weekend, you know, within a month or so, everybody had their hair combed like theirs.
Just as long as it did the time.
And
it took
everybody
to grow
said that's
out.
long hair, but it wasn't. But everybody was combing their hair like the Beatles.
We had
The
a
Beatles
culture
cuts.
change
I
right there.
Yeah.
I remember hearing something about that.
I was in junior high school when they first came, you know.
Now, many of these acolytes released 45 RPM records in small batches to sell at local concerts to their family and friends, you know. And due to relatively small pressings, these obscure local records, you know, they became highly prized and valuable. You know, you would
Especially the blues, Ronnie.
have
Lots of the blues.
lots of, and you know, the Rolling Stones started out as a blues band. And
Well,
you know,
that's who inspired them, was the blues players from America.
exactly.
Not only the Rolling Stones, the Beatles, all of those European groups.
Eric Clapton.
Yes.
Eric Clapton, you know, he was a big blues fan.
Yeah.
And they liked Muddy Waters and, you know, a lot of those old blues guys. B.B. King. One of the collector's items with the most notoriety in record collecting, it's not a record at all, but it's just merely an album cover. The Beatles themselves accidentally contributed what is probably one of the most well-known and valuable collector's pieces of the rock and roll era, and it's called the Butcher cover. This is an informal title for an album cover for the album Yesterday and Today. And until 1967, the Beatles LP releases in the UK, they were subsequently different from their LP releases in the USA. The American albums were shorter. They had different songs, different album titles, and artwork.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that.
Well, you're talking about a 45, and I just, I know we'll talk about some prices, but why I'm looking at this one, this is AC/DC. It's a 45 now, but it's got the small hole. You know, most 45's got a bigger
Got
hole.
a big hole, yeah.
All right, and let me read you what it says about it. It says AC/DC's first ever single recorded with Dave Evans, pressed by Music Carriers NZ Ltd. And New Zealand. Mm-hmm. And this one record now, brought $2,035.
Wow.
$2,035.
And had a small hole. I wonder, yeah.
It had a hole like the 33.
I'll be dang.
And it had 39 bids, by the way.
A lot of interest in it.
Yes.
Lots of interest.
And of course, that's another from Australia Records.
There's a lot of interest nowadays in record collecting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, everybody's got records, you know, and a lot of people, you know, have pretty good sized collections.
Yeah.
You know, that they've saved.
Well,
you know,
I'll tell you
from
what a
their
lot of people's
childhood.
done, too. A lot of people has, like you said, with these new players coming out, a lot of people started collecting the vinyl. They say it's a lot. Philip,
Has
what,
a more.
why does
What am I
people,
trying-
why do they play the albums? I mean, I've heard it versus the CDs. Why?
They say the acoustics is better.
Yeah,
Come on over here.
well, a CD is a digitized version of the music.
Right.
And no matter how advanced it gets, well, maybe to a point, but it's not a perfect like if you look at a sine wave of going up and down thing, that's how your ear hears it. But when a computer digitizes that, it's in steps.
Yeah,
It's not perfect, and it just loses.
It comes back and it normalizes it. Is what it comes.
Well,
it normalizes it.
And one of the things also is that just the sound of recording on analog tape that we listened to for 50 years-ish or so was...
You get a lot of nostalgia there. You know, we're used to hearing a little crackling and popping.
Yeah, well, the tape, even though it's not as perfect as recording to a computer in that way, it's got a pleasing sound to the human ear, and so that's just just older recordings like that, and just the vinyl is an analog waveform instead of a digital waveform, and it just has more soul to it, as you know.
Yeah,
you get new artists now on vinyl. Still, a lot of new bands.
I've heard it's going back to it.
Right. I was going to talk about that a little
Adele,
later on here if we had time.
A couple weeks ago, I mentioned Adele, the concert. Her newest CD is also on vinyl.
Yeah, I think I had something about that down here. But yeah, you're right.
A lot more expensive, but they're there. I actually got one of her old ones just for fun to see how it sounded, and it sounds a whole lot better on record than on a CD. Especially because for her voice, she's that deep, soulful voice.
Right, she does.
On a record was kind of cool to be like if she would have been like Ella Fitzgerald or something like the 50s.
Yeah.
A new voice with that old-timey sound is pretty cool.
And she is really popular now. What'd you say? Her concert sold out in what?
45 minutes.
45 minutes.
All
That's
30.
across America, right?
Oh, yeah, the entire U.S., 45 minutes.
Her whole
sold
tour sold out.
The whole
45
tour.
minutes. That's really something.
That's job security.
That's definitely job security. Now, another holy grail for some collectors is Bob Dylan's The Freewheelin' Bob Dylan, the 1963 pressing that has 4 songs that were deleted from subsequent pressings known to fetch up to $35,000 in stereo and $16,500 in mono.
All right.
In excellent condition.
We're going to have to, after that, we're going to have to take a break, and then this will be our last break, and we'll come back and let you finish up with what you want to say about 45s.
Madeline's Antiques and Uniques at 6107 Murfreesboro Road in Manchester has been helping collectors find just the right thing since 2008. With 40 quality dealers and a constantly changing inventory of collectibles from the 1800s to the present, they have many unique items in the store and new things coming in daily. Are you looking for the perfect lamp or clock to finish your collection? A vintage lunchbox from your childhood? Well, you can find that plus any number of other unique items in their huge building. With their easy access off I-24, they meet many travelers from around the world and just around the corner that come to buy and sell antiques, or just to stop and have a free cup of coffee and a cookie while browsing around the store. Come visit owner Madeline Kemp and travel back in time at Madeline's Antiques and Uniques. So many memories.
The Jiffy Burger on the Hillsborough Boulevard in Manchester has been voted as having the best hamburgers in Manchester. Hometown atmosphere, historical memorabilia, and of course those great burgers, salads, chicken, and so much more. It's the Jiffy Burger on the Hillsborough Boulevard in Manchester. Call in orders at 728-4452. You can also order at the convenient outdoor curb service. Hamburgers are made the old-fashioned way at the Jiffy Burger, Manchester's finest hamburgers. Open 7:30 until 9, Monday through Saturday.
My name's John Hirschman. I'm one of the original 6 owners of P&H Rentals. Started the company 30 years ago when we saw a need for individual, construction, industrial, and commercial storage. We have trailers and containers for lease and sell. Our physical location is 2947 Old Manchester Highway, Tullahoma, Tennessee. My phone number is area code 931-273-4252.
We would like to thank Dr. David Florence for supporting Let's Talk Antiques. See Dr. Florence at 804 Kalon Street in Manchester for all of your medical needs. Call 728-5522 for your appointment today. Most insurances accepted.
Okay, we're back, and we're going to just talk real quickly about the record collecting hobby. You know, and it was aided by the establishment of record collecting books such as Gold Mine, Discoveries, and Stormy Weather in the UK Record Collector. Price Guide's books were published codifying exactly how much certain rare items were supposed to be worth. The grading of records based on condition became more standardized across the hobby. But now, we were talking about this, I believe, last week about these price guides and how, the internet is a much more reliable tool nowadays.
Oh, yeah.
eBay,
Well, the problem with price
books.
guides that we talked before, they have to spend about a year doing the work on it.
Right,
And time,
the prices change.
they change every day.
And
So, at the best you can do, all they are good for really is a
the
reference.
70s, you didn't have the internet, to go by, so that was kind of the thing there. Now, in the 80s and 90s, with the introduction of compact discs in the mid-80s, there began, the hobby began to kind of die down. Commonly found vinyl specimens that had been pressed in the hundreds of thousands or even millions of copies, they became relatively worthless, while the rarest specimens, they became even more valuable. And these rare items included 45 RPM discs in the genres of blues, rhythm and blues, doo-wop, garage rock, progressive rock, and psychedelic rock. Other rare and highly valued items including pieces from highly collectible artists such as the Beatles, Elvis Presley, U2, Michael Jackson, Madonna, The Cure, the Rolling Stones, or James Brown. Some are pressings from nations where they were pressed in very small quantities, such as the Sex Pistols' South African release of God Save the Queen. Okay, now in the 2000s, even in the 21st century, as music fans have often opted for digital downloads, over physical releases, and indeed, they started to collect the same way as vinyl. Certain contemporary bands have a following of record collectors that's prominent, for instance, in the punk and alternative genres. For example, the special edition of The Decline on transparent vinyl has already reached prices of $1,500 due to the do-it-yourself ethic and constrained budgets of many punk bands and labels. Releases by lesser-known bands tend to be in limited edition. Specific pressings, runs of records are sometimes printed on different colored vinyl. They have new or different songs containing spelling or mixing errors, or they may be lower quality than other pressings. All these factors increase a specific record's collectability.
Hey, Ronnie, with that, let's do a few prices here. Here, this is the 45, okay?
Right.
And we're running out of time, but
Okay.
here's one: Widespread Panic, Coconut Image Monkey. It's a 45 record now.
Yeah.
$600, 1986.
Wow. 1986.
Now here's one that I've seen. Let me see where it was. Here's a good one. Here's a picture vinyl of Bewitched, Elizabeth Montgomery. $499. It's a picture of her and Tabitha on the record and on the 45 record cover. Here's one of those red ones you're talking
now
about.
she sang songs on the show as her
Yes.
alter ego.
Yes. Yeah, remember she was a hippie or something.
Right.
Here's a Green Beatles record. This record brought $395, and one brought $383. So here's some Beatles 1994 complete first series 15 colored vinyls. Now these are just 1994s.
Right.
Evidently they
Not all that old.
$324.
But still bringing the money.
Yeah, so those picture records, there's people that's all they collect is that type of records.
Right.
Whether it be 78, 33, 45,
but
whatever.
just picture records.
Yes. And with that, if you got something that you want to
I
finish
was
up
just
with?
gonna talk a little bit more about the 2000s.
We got 1 minute, so you better talk fast.
Well,
You got 50 seconds.
I got 50 seconds. The bad experience and low quality results.
35.
They left the band so disappointed they scrapped their sessions and they re-recorded the LPs elsewhere. The older sessions were pressed into 110 copies of white vinyl and sent to fans who had pre-ordered, bringing it down to reward them for their patience. Now there's a lot of bands nowadays that are just pressing their albums on vinyl
Yeah.
and releasing them.
The Beatles' White Album, real quick, $450 with the white record.
With the right records.
Well, you know, most of them are dark records, and this one had the white album with the white record,
I mean,
which I'd say would be rare.
Boy,
With
I
that-
need to do a show on my rock and roll driving buses, Dave.
Yeah,
you
well,
really do, right?
Yeah,
I
well,
think you'd enjoy it before we get thrown off there.
no, we better not.
We probably wouldn't get.
Well, I
thrown
guess
off.
what we'll have to do is tone it down some, won't we?
A whole lot.
Yeah. Well, with that, we're going to have to get out of here, Keith.